I'm hoping.
You got that crystal ball, you know.
Like New Year, New You.
That's
type
right,
thing.
exactly.
I have a little voodoo doll under here. I'm gonna start stabbing if it gets going
As long
too
as it's
late.
him.
Oh yeah, it is him.
It'll be me.
That's him.
It'll be me. Don't worry. He would
Whoever's talking a lot is gonna get it.
Well, it's not going to be me.
He would not
next
do
time.
that to you. I know I'm on a list. So
What's that? No, you're not allowed to talk.
Good evening. I'd like to call this November 10th, 2021 meeting of the City of Manassas Park Planning Commission to order. The time is 7 p.m. My name is Lester Finkel. Sitting this evening is John Evans, Alana Mensing, and Michael Beckett's.
It's the screen on there right now. It's good.
First order of business is I will do the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, so if we'll stand. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business is the approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda for this evening? Seeing none, anyone care to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Move second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Agenda is approved. Next meeting minutes agenda. Next item is the adoption of minutes for September 8th, 2021 meeting. Did anyone have any changes to that set of meeting minutes? It'll just be the three of us voting. You were not present, okay? So,
Okay.
so if there's no changes, then anyone care to make a motion to adopt the minutes as is?
Moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Just for the point of clarity, I mean, I think that we need to note that there was an abstention as well. So, you have to say all in favor, all opposed, abstentions, and so we would have one abstention because he wasn't here.
Okay. I was just recognized. Okay, that's fine if that's how
It's just for the record,
that's
right?
how
I
it's
think that's the
done.
way Atlanta does it.
Okay. Would you like me to go through it again, or are you good?
No.
Okay, so just abstention.
point of clarity.
Commissioner Beckett, sir, thank you. The next agenda item is citizen time. Are there any members of the public here to discuss a topic that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move along. The next agenda item is new business. We have a public hearing for conditional use permit, CUP number 03-05-R-1, Pet Suites. And we have an action that's we'll get to when we're done with the hearing. So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. The time is 7:04. Who will be presenting for the applicant?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Finkel.
Sure.
We are going to turn the presentation over to the applicant.
Fine.
So they can provide you details of their project.
Good. Thank you. Okay.
This is Kyle Wake with GPD Group. I'll be the main person presenting. We also have one of our civil engineers, Steve Gotlowski, on the phone. We have from our client NBA side, we have Josh Trimble as well as Ben Fisher. And if some of the operation questions come up, is there any swearing in that you need to do for us?
No.
No, just your name and who you're representing, and then we'll welcome you to begin your presentation. Thank you.
Good. Like I said, my name is Kyle Wake with GPD Group. We are share my screen.
We should have the ability, oh, great.
All right, yeah, I think everybody sees my screen.
We're gonna zoom in.
What we're presenting today is a conditional use permit to provide an outdoor kennel area for our Pet Suites building. Our client purchased the existing kennel facility, I don't know, 18 months ago or so, and they are trying to modify the better utilize the facility by adding outdoor play areas to it. And so that's what the conditional use permit's for. What we have on the back side of the building is a large area used for dogs to play in. I can show you an overall of our site plan. This here is the existing site plan that shows the existing parking lots, the existing building, and behind the building in this area is where we propose to put the play area. On the overall site plan, this is what the proposed play area looks like. We're not doing any to the existing parking. We are not over on the south side of our property. We're adding bioretention to try to offset some of the stormwater requirements to capture some of the stormwater and filter out before it hits the school system or run off the site. The majority of the work we're doing is in this area, which is the outdoor play. Along this side of the property, you have your parking lot, and then it drops down, and we have a retaining wall here. Along this side, there's existing dog kennels that are used for potty break areas, and we are proposing to rebuild those kennels, but in essence, what's there is remaining, just putting new fencing up. It's the same use that's already there. So it's real work here. It's pretty easy to remain. As we go a little bit further into the drawing, have better details on what we're doing with the play area. It's going to be mostly artificial turf that drains into a under drain in that turf, and then it drains off right there. And we have within these turf areas, we have some temporary kennels that are just used for kind of timeout areas for the dogs. But there's no long-term outdoor storage of dogs. It's just multiple areas for the dogs to play in. And then, like I said, this was the area where we already have existing potty walk kennels. Those are just going to get rebuilt out of new fencing, but in essence, it's already there. We're doing some additional fencing on here to corral the dogs, since we're doing the outdoor play so the dogs can't get loose. There's already an existing fence built on this retaining wall back here, so we're just going to tear that off and redo it because it's not in the best condition, and add some other fencing elements to corral the dogs in here. But in essence, that's the project. So I'd like to see what additional you guys have to address this week.
Thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners for the applicant?
No questions.
No, sir.
I just have two of them. One, I noticed that on page 4 of the Administrator Barry's report to us, she indicated that Pet Suites indicated there were several noise studies that were done in the past. Is Pet Suites, has it made those noise studies available to the city, or are those noise studies available to be provided to the city?
Aaron, I can let you expand on this a little bit. I have one noise study that was done on a project that we could send you. I'm not sure how viable it is because it's a noise study from the inside of a building to the out to see what the noise is on the outside. It doesn't address the outdoor play. But definitely can provide you that noise study. It shows that the ambient noise from cars passing significantly is just as much or greater than the but other than that, Aaron, were you able to locate any of the noise studies that people have alluded to?
So unfortunately, the person who has the sound studies completed, they're no longer with us. So what we're doing is we're actually conducting some sound studies as we speak in a couple of different markets for both our future and existing sites. So we should have that information very soon.
Okay, thank you. And you'll provide that to the city once it's available.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And then just had a question. There was a statement in the report again that Virginia DEQ guidance needs to be obtained or is possibly in the process of being obtained regarding whether pollutant elimination system permit is needed. And I just wanted to verify if the city is responsible for the coordinating with DEQ, or is it Pet Suites as the applicant?
Yeah, so in review, we tried to handle this through a SWIP, a stormwater pollution prevention plan, but they need the ability to use some sort of a cleaner disinfectant chemical. So we don't have any documentation or evidence that this percolation underdrain system is adequate to actually remove the, in its entirety, the cleaning solution before it actually discharges to surface waters. By our MS4 permit, our municipally separate storm system permit with the city, we are allowed to permit the discharge of stormwater and a list that exists in the state code of non-stormwater discharges. Those things are things like foundation drainage, groundwater entering foundations and being discharged, fire flows for emergency operations, but nothing about chemicals or cleaners. So our recommendation to the applicant is to pursue their own VDPES permit, or perhaps the DEQ will issue them their own MS4 permit. Such situations existed like an enterprise rental car, people that use soap to wash vehicles. They simply have to, in that case, provide a SWIP, and they get their own MS4 permit with the state, which then we become the enforcing agency for. But the state would issue that separate MS4 permit to that entity, and then we're just enforcing what the state recommends in their permit. So at this point, we're directing the applicant to work with DEQ and see where DEQ actually steers them. Maybe it's towards their own MS4 permit, or maybe it's towards a VDPES permit.
Okay. So from a timing perspective, I know we're being asked to recommend this at this time when that hasn't happened yet. Is the present proposed conditional use permit, does that language allow for that or cover that?
As long as the conditions are clear that they need to maintain either an MS4 permit with the state or a VDPES permit with the state,
okay,
then we would have no more concerns about our ability to permit such a thing.
Okay.
Right now, we have questions as to whether we can, because it's not clearly a listed non-stormwater discharge, and it's certainly not just a stormwater discharge.
Okay.
But the applicant has done everything they can to eliminate the first problem, which is pet waste, keeping that out of an already impaired waterway. The problem is, how do we differentiate without further guidance from the state? Is is there a way to make this allowable? These things are best handled with state guidance directly, so.
Okay. I did see MS4 in the conditional use permit. So from your perspective, that's sufficient to ensure that whatever timing needs to happen, whatever coordination needs to happen will happen before the final construction goes forward and for what they need to do.
I can't put us in any jeopardy
Yes.
with DEQ. We've been in audit conditions before. We've been in compliance
Understood.
conditions before. So
That was my concern.
The last thing we can do is not take such precautions to protect ourselves. So we won't be permitting anything or recommending anything that, you know, we feel could come back and bite the city. So.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I have one follow-up question with regards to that. I completely agree with everything you said. With the condition that's going to get could it also be added, like, what if the state comes back and says, we don't see any issues, we don't feel we need a separate permit, you can run it through the city's already existing process? Could we get a condition added to where if the state doesn't require it, then that's acceptable as well?
Right, and then the city attorney's sitting here, but from my point of view, you know, as the director charged with managing the MS4 permit, I would say as long as we have something from DEQ as, you know, stating such, then we would be covered, and we're not knowingly allowing a non-compliant, non-stormwater discharge. So at that point in time, I'd say having something for the file would be adequate for me, but I'll let Dean chime in if he thinks that we actually should have something additional.
No, I'm reading, so you're looking at the conditional use permit. Which condition are you looking at specifically?
5C.
Okay, I was looking at it. So it just says it needs to comply with all applicable stormwater management requirements. Yeah, I mean, if the state doesn't have anything, then we can handle it here. I'm fine with that.
If it turns out that the state does not think they are required to have their own MS4 permit, then I suppose that condition could be removed.
It just says all applicable. So if it's not applicable, then we don't have to change anything.
Yeah, so again, if we have something on DEQ letterhead stating that that this is an acceptable non-stormwater discharge, then it seems like we would have our bases covered. We would be protected as a city.
So I think the answer is we don't need to change anything on this conditional use permit.
Yeah, I don't think additional language is needed.
That's for us.
So unless there are any questions for the applicant, Administrator Barry, would you like to highlight anything from your very detailed report for us?
Yes, I would. It's back up. Oh. Yeah. Back to you. Sorry. Thank you for your patience. You had to load up my presentation. The applicant did a good job of explaining the details of the project, but I wanted to go over some things that might not necessarily be apparent when just looking at the application. In terms of that, I did do some site visit, and I'll just explain on the way some of the aspects that I believe the conditions do capture all the possible issues that may occur with this application. Okay, I just always like to start off with an aerial photo. You'll know in the staff report I did say that most of the properties are vacant and forested. As you can see, that's true. And even though this is even an older aerial photo, but it does kind of give you an idea of what the perimeter it looks like. And then this is the area, the open space area for the adjacent residential property in Prince William County. So, but actually this does link up to Signal Hill Park. But it is, and it doesn't abut the open space, but that's the closest residential that's existing now. And then this is the preschool to the east. Just moving on in terms of planning and zoning, here is the site. All three along that abut the property are zone B2 in the purple. Across the street is the Palisades apartment, and that is zone PUD. We did incorporate this property to the south fairly recently. I believe it was in 2020. That property is zoned A1 and it is vacant. It is owned by the Diocese of Arlington, so we suspect and have had discussions that will be a church site at some point, a place of worship. Here is our future land use. All of the bluish color is the City Center Redevelopment District, which incorporates all three of these sites that are zone B2. And then, of course, the property to the south is private institution in our future land use map. Trying to get a better aerial here, just to kind of highlight some of the items. More specifically, you'll know that there is really a fence line along both of these properties. And you can see this row of evergreen trees between the Merritt School, which is the preschool, and then of course the pet suites property. I just include this in the presentation that they went over this. I'm just going to skip that. I will note that the area on the right is going to be the proposed bioretention facility. And you can see that the three play areas are directly behind the building. So here's a bigger enlargement plan for all the separate play areas that they're going to have. Here's the rear of the building. You can see how it's going to be configured into the three different areas. And then here's an entryway that actually kind of connects up to the parking lot in the back. They're going to propose another fence here for the proposed use, and here's the under drain that Calvin talked about concerning the stormwater that runs around along this side of the fence too. Here's an area to the east side of the building. These are air conditioners, but here's where the proposed kennels are going to be. On my recent site visit, there was only like 2 or 3 there at this point, but these are going to really be the privy or potty kennels, you want to call them. And then here's the entryway from the parking lot. There's another one. It's kind of, they have these various walkways on the property. And then here's a new fence, and then that will be the entryway to the outdoor play. The outdoor play area. Here's the entrance to the pet suite on the side. This just kind of identifies the bioretention facility is really going to take up a big portion of this back area. And that's to mitigate any stormwater management issues was related to just the improvements that they're doing at the back of the property. And you'll notice here that there is a fence line. I'm going to show you some better photos because you can't really, this area, it is well, not here, but the Merit School is a lot higher than this property. So it does kind of slope down here. I have some photos that kind of visualize where you can get an idea of what that looks like. So here's the, you can see here's the trees adjacent to the parking lot. And this actually is a portion of the fence that fronts on is on the side of the Merit School with this fencing on top. And this is not necessarily a good picture because you can't see it, but that's like where the pet suite fence, and then back behind that tree is really this fencing area. And that wall, I mean, that wall is about 6 feet tall. So it is on a larger elevation, separate elevation from the property. I also wanted to point out that on this side of the property here, there is a lot along this fence line. There is a lot of vegetation also that provides a barrier for the property and for the play area. There is a wall there as well. It's about a 4-foot wall with a 3-foot fence, and there's all this overabundant vegetation, just kind of actually providing a vegetative buffer along that side. But so of course, some of the issues that staff is concerned about is the obvious ones, noise and any kind of environmental pet waste issues and odor, right? So we looked at that. I believe Calvin covered the stormwater management portion of it. From a noise perspective, I evaluated the property based on the fact that most of these are commercial uses that surround it. But the buffer and the distance between the proposed uses, because the property here, which is undeveloped, there is a site plan on that property for a restaurant. When measured from the site plan, the property line is about 80 feet. Yeah, because that's where the play area is. So measured from the play area to where the restaurant's going to be. And it's about an 80-foot distance. But again, the restaurant's going to be about 4 feet higher than where this play area is. So there's an elevation difference.
Mickey, that site plan for the restaurant, does it include the retention of some of that vegetative buffer that you were talking about? Or are they gonna?
Well, this is on their property. They are proposing, this is gonna really be the parking lot islands, and then there's a parking strip. So there should be some ability to retain that buffer, because it's actually kind of folding over the fence. So I think that won't be disturbed. And I think they're gonna have I believe they have a required parking 10-foot buffer, I believe, around the parking lot.
But they're not required to have any screening.
No. They're both B2 properties, so there really isn't any required screening on their part. But the fence will remain.
And that 4-foot fence, the noise will go above that, right? So it should, by the time it gets to the restaurant, it should be above the restaurant, just for line of sight.
So I think that with the elevation difference, as well as the vegetation, it should at least keep the noise to a minimum. And given the distance of the proposed restaurant, I think it should not be a problem. They still are subject to the noise ordinance, which allows a dog to bark for 1 minute for a duration of 10 consecutive minutes, right? Mm-hmm. So if they do have a dog that does that, they would have to, in accordance with the noise ordinance, which is a condition, you take the animal inside. Of course, we can't control all of the dogs barking, but I believe the distances and the buffering and elevation difference does actually assist with the noise component.
Who owns the fence? Which one? The restaurant?
It is shown on the Pet Suite site plan, so I believe they own it. I mean, it's right on the property line, so I can't say 100% sure.
So it would be their decision to remove or not the vegetation?
Oh, who, the Pet Suites or? I believe so. I mean, they, in their application, stated that that was going to remain. The other issue is odor and environmental issues. As explained in the report, they are going to be using 2 types of odor control methods. One is going to be a disinfectant, and they will be using it actually on the inside and the outside. We did confirm it will be on the AstroTurf areas. This will be not grass, but AstroTurf, but I guess it's called canine something. And then, of course, along the cement pathways and we just call them privy kennels. They'll be using the disinfectant there. And then weekly, they will be using a bioenzymatic cleaner that helps dissolve pet waste and everything. And then both of them have an odor control component. So we believe that the odor won't be a problem. There is a condition that states that, you know, if there is a complaint, they will have to resolve that immediately. You know, Pet Suites has been in business for a while, and from what I can gather from their statement, that they're pretty good at controlling odor or being proud that they really have a clean facility and don't create, you know, noxious odors from their facility. So, you know, I guess we're not going to know 100%, but I think the conditions that we have placed in there will alleviate that concern if there's any kind of odor problem. And then getting back to the noise, I just wanted to let you know that I did talk to the Merit School. I went to a little site visit. I did knock on the door there, and the nice lady who answered the door, basically, I was interested in knowing whether she could hear dogs. She said no, they could not. In fact, the road noise is actually more the predominant noise that they hear. I will tell you that when you're in the parking lot, you can hear the dogs bark. And in the back, you definitely can hear them barking. I mean, even when they're inside, but it is audible. So, but I did find it interesting that they couldn't hear the noise from their property. So with relating to those impacts on adjacent properties, I believe the conditions have those well covered. And they will also comply with the stormwater management issue regarding any kind of stormwater pollutants. So we are recommending that the Planning Commission recommend to the governing body approval of the conditional use permit subject to the conditions. I did want to say that for clarity about the cessation of use condition, that Dean has recommended that we kind of identify that that any of those uses, if they cease for 1 year, that particular use will be basically null and void, and that they would have to apply for that again, if they wanted a conditional use permit for that particular use.
Yeah, I think we need to change the way it's written a little bit to say that, because right now it's not clear to me what happens if any one of them is ceased for a year. So clearly they shouldn't lose the entire conditional use permit if they stop using, the potty kennels or say, I mean, I don't think that's in here, but.
The specific.
Yeah, so if they stop having a veterinary hospital, say, should they stop being able to, have a overnight kennel? I don't think so. I don't think that's the intent, so.
So do we need to provide language now?
I think if the planning commission just directs you, because it's a recommendation, so they could recommend approval subject to making that clear.
Okay.
And that's number 2G, if you're looking at it.
So, and with that, if you have additional questions of staff, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Administrator Barry or staff?
No further questions.
No questions, so thank you. Could any members of the public, I don't see any, but any members of the public who would care to speak? Okay. Let the record show there are no members of the public here to speak to this application. Applicant, anything else you'd like to offer to us?
Nothing from my end. I just appreciate the letting us present, and hopefully happy we're trying to do that.
Very good. Thank you for your presentation. We will be doing the public meeting on the site plan right after this, so we'll ask you to stay on until we're finished with that as well there. Great. So if commissioners have no further questions for anyone, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. The time is 7:39. At this time, I'd like to offer opportunity for discussion. Okay, no discussion?
No discussion for me.
Then we'll go towards a motion. Do I hear a motion and I can begin to offer, and then let's make sure, because we do have that language for the cessation of use that we'll ask that the city in general, or Administrator Barry, make sure there's proper language in there as to what will happen if a particular use is not conducted for 1 year, so that it doesn't affect the entire use of the site. So just looking at the, let me go back to the front here. Move my pages over here. Okay, so the motion at the very least, if we're in favor of approving this, would be to recommend it for approval. So this is CUP number 03-05-R-1 to recommend for approval to the governing body this continual use permit with, again, the caveat that the language be changed in 2G to reflect that any cessation of use for 1 year would be only to that use and not to the entire site use, and that we find that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. Would anyone care to make a motion?
So moved, sir.
The motion? Second? Any further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Very good. We'll go to the next agenda item here. I've moved all my pages around. My agenda pages. The agenda. Oh, thank you. That's great. Very good. So next agenda item is 7B, site plan SP number 03-05-R-1 Pet Suites. This will be a public meeting. I'll open the public meeting at this time. Time is 7:40. So we can, Administrator Barry, if you'd like to coordinate with the applicant, I mean, just
Well, just to, this of course is the same application. The applicant has requested concurrent processing, and therefore we are doing two separate motions for the different applications, even though it's represented as one plan. With the recommendation of approval of the conditional use permit, of course, staff is also asking the planning commission to recommend to me, the zoning administrator, approval of this plan as presented.
very good. Anything further from the applicant? I would think not, but you're more than welcome to offer us anything further if you like.
And nothing further. If you guys have questions.
Okay. Any questions?
No questions here, sir.
No questions. And again, no members of the public present to speak to this. So if don't see any questions, period, then I'll go ahead and close the public meeting. The time is 7:41. And any discussion, or shall we move to a motion? Okay. I'll entertain a motion then to recommend approval to the zoning administrator for ASP number 03-05-R-1 Pet Suites. Again, that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Entertain a motion.
Moved.
Moved. Second. Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We appreciate your participation this evening. Good luck in the future there.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. You're welcome. Okay, we have no unfinished business to go over this evening, no report of special committees, and Administrator Barry, if you'd like to provide us with informational update.
We'll just keep that up. So there's just two things. One, I provided information in your packet about the comprehensive plan chapters. There are the 3 chapters that I looked at, and in consultation with the chairman, you can see from those excerpts that there are very few goals and objectives for the Human Services chapter, the fire and rescue, both public safety, as well as the police department. I have spoken to the Director of Social Services. It is very atypical for a comprehensive plan to have a dedicated chapter to human services. Certainly those are important for any community, but it's really not applicable in a land use document. No. It is my recommendation, and in consultation with Randy, our Department Director of Social Services, that we believe we should eliminate the chapter. It's just not really something that we should be putting in the comprehensive plan. If it was a capital facilities related component, then I believe we should, and we could mention it under a community facilities chapter, just in brief. And then so for the public safety ones, the fire and rescue along with the police department, we're asking the planning commission if we could work with those departments to come out with some better goals and objectives, about a 3-month time frame, so we can come back to you and present those.
Any questions for Administrator Barry? Thank you. Sounds good.
Just one last item. We are required to send out CIP requests.
Getting that time of year
back in
again.
October, I believe, or it was September, actually. They were due November 1st, so those are coming in, if not already in our possession, and so we will be working on that over the coming months and coming back to you with a full presentation with the department directors. I believe it's typically February. So just so we're working on that. And I hope you all notice that we do have our new website up. And so if you haven't had a look at it, please do. It is a big improvement over the previous one, so we're really happy to have that information. That's all I have for the commission.
Any questions? Issues, sir? No questions. Thank you. Appreciate it. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move, second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned, 7:40.